In this world, is the destiny of mankind controlled by some transcendental entity or law? Is it like the hand of God hovering above? At least it is true that man has no control, even over his own will.
Let us consider this problem. The human eye opens at a rather late stage in the development of the individual. He has already done the most marvelous work he will ever do. In a mysterious way, in his mother's womb, he has built a human body. And this body has organs that are directed to certain ends and intentions. And these were not the organs designed by reason, designed by consciousness. Reason and consciousness comes to itself and asks later, what is it I'm all about? What is it I am here for? What is it I'm all about? What is it I am here for? Why is it I do this and that? Why is it I do this and that? What is it I'm all about? What is it I am here for? Furthermore, the coming of the eyes into the general biological picture is very late. Life had already originated hundreds of millions of years before eyes opened and saw what was going on, saw what life was doing. Now if you'll see and think what it is that life does, that life has to do in order to be life. It has to kill and eat other life. That's the basic thing. This is a rather monstrous thing. And when the eyes see what the situation is on which its own life depends, its own existence, when conscience and consciousness become aware of the preconditions of their own existence, there is often a sense of shock, a sense of horror. You know, the basic word of Buddhism, all life is sorrowful. That's one way of recognizing this. There is also the feeling many have of guilt simply for being alive. This is, in a way, symbolized in the image of the fall in the garden. Life is monstrous. Life is monstrous. What is it I'm all about? What is it I am here for? What is it I'm all about? What is it I am here for? Why is it I do this and that? Why is it I do this and that? What is it I'm all about? What is it I am here for?
So long as I have my sword to fight with, I'm sure to survive. Year after year, I prove it to be true. Before joining the Hawks, I always survived. No matter the odds, no matter how hopeless a losing battle, this time was no different. In truth, I don't believe that's any way to live one's life. I've been fighting in battles for as long as I can remember. The mercenary leader who raised me taught me nothing except how to wield a sword. I've never had anything accept my sword. I don't want to die. For me, that is the only reason I keep fighting. There is nothing to save myself for or give myself to. I fight because I know nothing else. Once I was willing to do just that, to commit myself to fighting, and let anyone else find a reason for me. Is this reality? It has always been at my side. Through pain I could hardly endure. Yes, this is part of me.
One of the very great things that C.G. Jung contributed to mankind's understanding was the concept of the shadow. That everybody has a shadow. And that the main task of the psychotherapist is to do what he called to integrate the evil. To, as it were, put the devil in us in its proper function. Because you see, it's always the devil, the unacknowledged one, the outcast, the scapegoat, the bastard, the bad guy, you see, the black sheep of the family. It's always from that point, what we could call the fly in the ointment, you see, that generation comes. In other words, in the same way as in the drama, to have the play, it's necessary to introduce a villain. It's necessary to introduce a certain element of trouble. So, in the whole scheme of life, there has to be the shadow. The there is a very strange association between crime and all naughty things and holiness. You see, holiness is way beyond being good. Good people aren't necessarily holy people. A holy person is one who is whole, who has, as it were, reconciled his opposites. And so there's always something slightly scary about holy people. And other people react to them in very strange ways. They can't make up their minds whether they're saints or devils. So holy people have, throughout history, always created a great deal of trouble, along with their creative results. Take Jesus, for example. Trouble that Jesus created is absolutely incalculable. Think of the Crusades, the Inquisition, heaven only knows what's gone on in the name of Jesus. Freud's a big troublemaker, as well as a great healer, you see. It all goes together. The shadow. The bastard, the bad guy, the black sheep of the family. The shadow. Integrate the evil. Integrate the evil. The shadow. The bastard, the bad guy, the black sheep of the family. The shadow. Everybody has a shadow, because without the shadow there can't be the substance. Person is scary because he is like the earthquakes, or better still, he's like the ocean. See, the ocean on a lovely sunny day, you can say, oh, isn't that gorgeous, and you can go into it and relax and float around. But boy, when the storm comes, does that thing get mad? Terrifying. So there is in us the ocean, you see. And Jung felt that the whole point was to bring the two together by a kind of fantastic honesty, to penetrate one's own motivations to the depths.
Yes. Why should I regret anything at this point? There's no use in repenting for my sins. It will make no difference. There's nothing I can give back to the dead to undo what I have done. This is my chosen path. If I let myself feel regret or remorse, it could all slip away. And then I would never reach my destined throne.
Evil for me is differentiated from tragedy by its lack of necessity and its voluntarism. Evil is more pernicious than that which is generated by social inequality. I think it's actually a form of demonically warped aesthetic. Demonically warped aesthetic. Evil is more pernicious than that demonically warped aesthetic. The motto on the gates of Auschwitz: work will make you free. That's an aesthetic of evil. To make a joke. It's a terrible, terrible, ironic joke. It's instructive to meditate on what sort of imagination would have the arrogance to tell such a terrible joke. Demonic
thousands of comrades and tens of thousands of enemies. Only one. Only you, and you alone, obscured the vision of my dream. I submit.
Down below there, we have the shadow, as Jung calls it. It's like the blind spot for ego. That about yourself, of which your ego is completely unconscious, of which it has no knowledge whatsoever. This shadow, in Jung's terminology, corresponds almost precisely to the Freudian unconscious. The Freudian unconscious is constituted of repressed experiences, repressed shocks. And it is these shocks that have set up the slant, the posture, the structuring attitude of the individual to life. It's these that constitute the personal unconscious. The shocks that will have upset and transformed the life experience of one person will not be precisely the same as those that will have done so for another. And so the shadow is the order of what Jung calls the personal unconscious. On the other hand, the self is a function of the biology of the body. We have two things here. We have a basic human biology, and we have then a system of individual experiences, both in the unconscious realm. It's out of those centers that dreams come, that dreams come, that dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come, that dreams come, that dreams come. And dreams, of course, will be primarily personally oriented. They will have come from the shadow system mostly, but the shadow system rests on the deeper ground. When we come to myths, the imagery is out of the general system. And Jung speaks of two orders of dream. There'll be one order of symbols that you can interpret by personal association, the free association technique that Freud uses. But there will be then other images in your dreams at certain critical moments in your life that you cannot interpret through personal associations. They will be strictly mythological in their character. On the other hand, you can have dreams that have to do with personal experiences that are quite peculiar to yourself. And these Jung calls the small or little dreams, and the others the big dreams. Often big dreams occur in technicolor. It's out of those centers that dreams come, that dreams come, that dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come, that dreams come, that dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come, that dreams come, that dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come, that dreams come, that dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come, that dreams come, that dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come, that dreams come, that dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come, that dreams come, that dreams come. It's out of those centers that dreams come, that dreams come.
It's just my nature. I'd rather fight with my sword than run away, that's all.
So that's the only reason? You fought 100 men because it's not in your nature to run away.
I read this New Testament line decades ago. I could never understand it. The line is, the meek shall inherit the earth. And I thought, there's something wrong with that line. It just doesn't make sense to me. Meek just doesn't seem to me to be a moral virtue. Meek is not a good translation. What it means is this: those who have swords and know how to use them, but keep them sheathed, will inherit the world. Those who have swords and know how to use them, but keep them sheathed, will inherit the world. That's a big difference. It's so great. You should be a monster. You should be a monster. You know, because everyone says, well, you should be harmless, virtuous. You shouldn't do anyone any harm. You should sheath your competitive instinct. You shouldn't try to win. You don't want to be too aggressive. You don't want to be too assertive. You want to take a back seat and all of that. It's like, no. Wrong. You should be a monster. You should be a monster. Absolute monster. And then you should learn how to control it. It's like, is there something wrong with being competitive? There's nothing wrong with it. There's something wrong with cheating. There's something wrong with being a tyrant. There's something wrong with winning unfairly. All of those things are bad. But you don't want people to win? What's the difference between trying to win and striving? You want to eradicate striving? One definition of a winner is someone who never let losing stop them. Never let losing stop them. Never let losing stop them. Buckle. You should be a monster. You should be a monster. You should be a monster. Life isn't a game. It's a series of games. And the right ethic is to be the winner of the series of games. And part of that means, well, you have to learn how to be a good loser. Because you're not going to win every single game. You should be a monster. You should be a monster. You should be a monster. You can pick your level of competition in life to some degree. So let's say you pick a level of competition where you're always winning. All that means is you pick the wrong level of competition. Let's say you're a grandmaster chess player and all you do is play amateurs, and every night you go home and congratulate yourself on what a genius you are because you just stomped these people left, right, and center. It's like, you're not a genius. You're a dimwit. What you should be doing is playing people who are beating you like as much as you can tolerate. You want to be on the edge where your skills are being developed. There's always a possibility. There's always a possibility.
Sparks. The light born in the clash when two swords meet. They serve me as well. Throughout my life, the moments and people that have defined me, they have all been illuminated by sparks.
I've been reading recently a great many medieval works, and these involve, particularly in the Arthurian romance and so forth, knights in combat with each other, fiercely in combat, with complete respect for each other, even love for each other. And there's one wonderful line in Wolfram von Eschenbach when two brothers who didn't know they were brothers were in combat. One was a Christian and the other was a Mohammedan. They were in combat. And Wolfram says, if one wished to think of it that way, one could say that they were two battling. But they had the same father, and they are one. And they are one. Battling himself out of loyalty, out of honor. And they are one. Battling himself, doing himself much harm. But that's the tragic sense. As I say, life begins, and that's the first thing the eye sees. Life eating itself, killing. But that's life. And the reconciliation of consciousness, which revolts from this, to that, and its affirmation, that is the song of mythology. It has been. It's the song of the religions. And with that little affirmative theme, the affirmation of life as it, I would say we have the key to the hopping up, the stepping up, the invigorating of life, which has been the function, actually, the first function of mythology from the time the old cavemen asked the bear to give his body to their life. For their life. And they are one. Battling himself out of loyalty, out of honor. And they are one. Battling himself, doing himself much harm. And they are one. Battling himself out of loyalty, out of honor. And they are one. Battling himself, doing himself much harm.
His eyes look as if they're focused on an enemy. But even if he hates me or considers me a traitor, I must go. It really is just as it was 3 years ago. Just as it started, so shall it end. A duel. It couldn't be any other way. This fight does at least show me that you still value me enough to plead for.
So that little theme close with thanks to you all.
How did you decide to become a blacksmith?
Family trade.
Do you like it?
I don't know.
Existence, the physical universe, is basically playful. There is no necessity for it whatsoever. It isn't going anywhere. That is to say, it doesn't have some destination that it ought to arrive at, but that it is best understood by analogy with music. Because music, as an art form, is essentially playful. We say you play the piano. You don't work the piano. Why? Music differs from, say, travel. When you travel, you are trying to get somewhere. One doesn't make the end of a composition the point. If that were so, the best conductors would be those who played fastest. And there would be composers who wrote only finales. People go to a concert just to hear one crashing chord. Because that's the end. Existence, the physical universe, is basically playful. There is no necessity for it whatsoever. going anywhere. Existence, the physical universe, is basically playful, but it is best understood by analogy with music. Because music, as an art form, is essentially playful. Same way in dancing. You don't aim at a particular spot in the room. That's where you should arrive. The whole point of the dancing is the dance. Now, but we don't see that as something brought by our education into our everyday conduct. We've got a system of schooling which gives a completely different impression. It's all graded. And what we do is we put the child into the corridor of this grade system. So they kind of, come on, kitty, kitty, kitty. And yeah, you go to kindergarten, you know, and that's a great thing because when you finish that, you'll get into first grade. And then come on, first grade leads to second grade and so on, and then you get out of grade school, you go to high school, and it's revving up, the thing is coming. Then you're going to go to college, and by Jove, then you get into graduate school, and when you're through with graduate school, you go out to join the world. Then you get into some racket where you're selling insurance, and they've got that quota to make. And you're going to make that. And all the time, the thing is coming. It's coming. It's coming. That great thing. That great thing. Thing is coming. It's coming. It's coming. That great thing. That great thing. The success you're working for. Then when you wake up one day about 40 years old, you say, my God, I've arrived. I'm there. And you don't feel very different from what you always felt. By expectation. Look at the people who live to retire and put those savings away. And then when they're 65, they don't have any energy left. They're more or less impotent, and they go and rot in a senior citizens community. Because we've simply cheated ourselves the whole way down the line. We thought of life by analogy with a journey, with a pilgrimage, which had a serious purpose at the end, and the thing was to get to that end. Success or whatever it is, or maybe heaven after you're dead. But we missed the point the whole way along. It was a musical thing, and you were supposed to sing or to dance while the music was being played. The physical universe is basically playful. There is no necessity for it whatsoever. It isn't going anywhere. Existence, the physical universe, is basically playful. But it is best understood by analogy with music. Because music, as an art form, is essentially playful.
I've been gripping this thing since before I could even walk. I didn't choose this. This is who I am. I just strike it. I don't think. I spent my youth desperate to forge a better sword, become a more skilled smith. Before I knew it, I was old. I don't even know what the hell I strike the iron for. But there is still one thing I like about it. The sparks. I like seeing sparks. Breathtaking. Life. Bursting before my eyes for just a moment. My life.